My name is Bobby Barrios.
Your whole government, huh? That's brazy, blood. This your boy
Yeah.
Mo.
Don't
All right,
ask.
so what's back from
Oh wow,
another
my mic's all the way over here too.
right? Back from another life-related hiatus. What's up, though, Bobby? How you doing?
I'm alright. Maybe we should talk about the hiatus and
We
fuck.
should probably talk about the topic.
Well,
Life.
I mean,
We
life.
have work.
Well, I mean, just
New
yeah.
jobs, new. It's always new jobs, always new situations that we have to adapt to. It's if it's always this, if it's the same circumstances that cause us to lose like this amount of consistency, that's inexcusable. But it's always a need for us to like align schedules because somebody got something new going on. It's always how it is for us. So if there is any hiatus, it's most likely because we're trying to adjust our schedules again to be able to better communicate with each other. But generally, that's it. Unless Bobby feels like there's something else, that's pretty much really it.
No, that's pretty much just we gotta feed ourselves, and
Yeah,
sometimes you know,
and that.
yeah, sometimes we have to take hiatuses. We're trying not to take hiatuses, but obviously we're trying something new. Mo got the webcam going. I got a webcam going. We're trying to do this over online podcasting. Sorry if the quality's not up to par. I'm trying to work on that, but we'll save that for the next episode. So, what is there to
Second
talk
part
about, Mo?
of the test right now. So you mentioned something about because Bobby is big on Twitch and all things Twitch related. So he he mentioned to me there was a situation recently, cool new words, where Twitch streamers have been, or two particular ones. I'm probably sure it's not just an isolated situation,
Mm-hmm.
but Twitch streamers have been getting kicked off the the streaming service almost seemingly indefinitely for the algorithm
Not
pick.
not indefinitely. It was like a 30-day ban that they got hit with.
That's
So,
pretty, but even so, like that,
right.
get clarification then. Cool. 30-day ban. Even so, for something you are not guilty of, 30 days is a lifetime.
Right.
Especially
And
if that's something you're consistent at doing. Like 30 days of not being
well,
consistent hurts us. Like, imagine how it feels for somebody who literally tries to do this shit at least once a day. Easy.
well, yeah, and that's the kind of like the thing I wanted to ask you, where the when someone relies on Twitch as their income, and then you get hit with a ban that with a word that you never said. What's the oversight here? Who controls that? You know, and especially, do Twitch support own up to a mistake? Hardly. So
Right.
the two people in question, it was TF Blade and this other league streamer called Pink Ward, LOL.
I
And
mean, is it like a suable offense to take somebody? Were these people like high tier streamers? Like, do they get like consistent incomes off of streaming?
one of them is partnered, the other one is not. So the one that's partnered, although, is part of, I don't know if you heard of Team Liquid organization.
No.
So Team Liquid is an esports team, very big in the realm, not just League, but in all other esports. And with TF Blade, like, it was a more defensive, because he had he had the whole organization behind him
Mm-hmm.
going against it. So his 30-week ban ended up in like a week. Like, they got fixed in a week, I think, or a week or and a half.
Mm-hmm.
But they had all the public saying like, "Yo, stop being stupid." He said this, and I'm gonna play it real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So, and like, it's, I keep saying it's like a Yanni and Laurel thing, where it's like, it sounds like he says did I even say that? What he said, the N word. That's what
Right,
he's.
right, right.
I don't think I
That's
ever.
what the allegations were.
The
I've
allegations.
heard these clips because there's not really much to dive into besides hearing the clips. I've heard these clips and I slowed down. And
So this is the clip. Let me just. So this is TF Blade.
Go, 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 go! Just
So that's the alleged N-word.
And in hindsight, how fast he says it and with his accent, initially without any playback, it would sound like that. But I feel like as a multi-billion-dollar organization, you have to at least be able to like properly research things when they're presented to you instead of just accepting it at face value, because this affects your service at the end of the day. Because
Right.
if this is the culture you're trying to create, to where, oh, now we're just gonna ban you and not even think about like checking the specifics, then it's not going to really lead to positive feedback from the people who use your service or people who even view your service, honestly.
Right. So now I slowed it down like 0.5. I might have missed it. Oh, wait. No. There you go. Okay.
Infernal, maybe. Go. Just go. Holy shit, kill these idiots.
Idiot. So now his ban was decreased significantly, and especially the backing of Team Liquid. Now, if I try to find, now this was like
instead of just being eliminated,
right, and that's the problem. Where it's like Twitch doesn't own up to their mistakes. Essentially, takes away someone's living, basically income.
that's such an automated action. I don't think an actual human was involved in relieving this. I think they still left it to the algorithm to do this work, because there's no way a regular human could see this and not eliminate the ban. And
well, the thing is, I'm pretty sure they emailed them with saying, "Hey, there was a manual." Because the thing is, when it first got dinged, they contacted Twitch support and they said, "Hey, I think there's a mistake here," and then they manually reviewed it and said, "No, we're right."
After hearing clearly,
right, but I don't think they even gave it a shot in terms of like slowing it down or like clearly hearing it.
It's a multi-billion-dollar organization. You can do better research than face value.
Now, let me try to find the other guy.
We did this with no disposable income. You have plenty of disposable income. You can pay somebody to quickly research that, and you'll easily find out that it's not the case. Because it seems like they at least did something to look at it. So if they looked at it, somebody's getting paid for it. So whoever's getting paid for it should have at least slowed it down to hear it properly.
Now, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to go on Twitter on this one, because I can't find it on YouTube for some reason. Pink award. So, the guy, so TF Blade, said, they dropped it into like a week, and had, he was partnered. He had this whole organization, supporting him, whatnot. He had all the fans supporting him, whatnot. And so that was swiftly taken. Now, Pink Ward was, just happened like the last week. TF Blade was like a couple weeks back. Pink Ward is not partnered. He actually kind of like switched from he started on Twitch, went to Facebook when Facebook was trying to like get streamers to go on their platform. Now he's back on Twitch. I'm trying to see.
Oh, here's my thing. What happened to the multi-platform?
What do you mean?
Like, there's something I noticed with like Twitch streams, especially. Granted, the whole live broadcasting is.
You're a robot right now.
What do you mean?
Okay, it was like robot-y.
Oh.
Your voice.
Granted, the whole live streaming and viewing somebody live, doing things live is it is the facet to what Twitch is based its success off of. But what happened to securing your viewership across multiple platforms? Like I see that done more so with people on Instagram who translated their viewers to YouTube and other platforms, because it's not particular. I mean, granted, whatever the reasons they have are the reasons they have, but what happened to multi-platforming? Like, I know Twitch has broadcast delays that you can transfer to other sites. What happened to being able to especially if you rely so heavily on, on an online presence, what happened to securing your presence on other platforms? Why does it specifically just have to be Twitch and nothing else? Granted, yes, if Twitch is your main, but what happened to having a backup?
I think it's just more of like you have to go where your audience is.
Isn't it? But most of these dudes have multi monitors and
right.
But they can stream on multiple platforms simultaneously, can they not?
They could, but I think it's more of a fact. It's just the inconvenience to the audience, where it's like, oh, I like this dude, but I like this platform.
Well, that's what the multi-platform is for. You can watch them on Twitch if you want to. If you want to watch it on YouTube, you can watch it on YouTube. But the thing is, restricting yourself to just one creates issues like this, to where if any little thing goes wrong, whether or not it be your own fault, you have to wait this long period of time before you create before anything can be amended. And again, for people who base their current lives off of this, to where they have to stream every day, that granted it won't immediately kill anything, but having hiatuses does not help everyone. Even for 30 days,
well, yeah, obviously, but that's what I'm trying to say. Should Twitch be more responsible, or should Twitch be more owned up?
They should, but any damage they would have already done is irreversible. It's not
obviously
like they can give him viewers back. So if anybody is lost because they don't know the situation, and let's be honest, a lot of people are misinformed. So if somebody's unaware of the situation, they get to think, oh, he probably fell out. Even if they come back over time and notice that he's still streaming, he would have lost viewers on quite a few videos before that happened.
Yeah.
And
okay. Apparently, I didn't save the other one.
And granted, in the grand scheme of things, that probably won't matter too much if you got all your viewers still actively watching you. But at the end of the day, again, when you base your livelihood, or so much your focus on streaming something on a regular basis, consistent basis, not having that kind of engagement when you're accustomed to it, can be a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah, and the thing is, I understand that, but also keep in mind, most of these Twitch streamers are 20 to 30 years old. So, or I'm talking more of the younger people, where it's they don't really are thinking about the next 10 years or the backup plans. And now in this day and age, you should have the backup plans,
especially when it comes to when it comes to the internet, with how volatile a lot of websites are, and the trends and what's popular at any given moment. Anything can go south. You never know.
Right, you're absolutely right. Hell, Twitch doesn't become a thing tomorrow. I'm not saying
hacking is a thing. So many issues can affect
right, but the fact still remains, where it's if something is as clear as day that a company is at fault, even though you should back up the company.
What you're getting at is, Twitch should definitely 100% be held accountable and immediately rescind any bans and provide some kind of compensation for these individuals, because they were obviously wronged. But at the same time, again, it's one of those situations where, as a child, my mom would always say, if you have friends over, you have to be responsible for whatever messes they make, even if they make the messes. So it's one of those situations where at the end of the day, you still have to have a certain level of accountability on yourself for the type of product you're putting out, and how it's being put out. At the end of the day, yes, Twitch is wrong.
But you see, I don't get that.
Twitch is capable of doing this. If Twitch is capable of doing this, you have to make a contingency while you're arguing your case. There has to be a contingency.
Well, I'm pretty sure that's what Pinkward's doing now. In Pinkward's case, when I heard it, and I somehow I can't find it anymore because I saved it, it did sound more like the N-word. I was taken back, and I was like, wait, let me just,
Right. In his case, he said yikers, right? Which is
he said fucking yikers, and the whole ing at the end combined with the YI, that's where it's kind of alarming. But it's kind of if
But no one says Nigers.
Yeah,
so
but
that's even less noticeable than the idiot situation, because that at least has the same phonetics. But nobody says Nigers. Like, no one says that.
when you say it, it's just so funny.
It is fun, but no one says that.
No, you're right. But it's kind of like, so now the thing is, the difference here is like where TF Blade has like a whole organization helping him out and defending his case, Pinkward doesn't. So we're probably gonna see him take even longer to get his shit back, or he's gonna serve the full 30-day ban. And remember, he's not gonna get any like premium ads or whatnot, or he's not even partnered yet. So it might even hurt him in trying to get a partner.
He's definitely gonna get overlooked. Something vicious.
So it's kind of like the only common denominator here is the public outcry, but not a huge organization helping him. So It's kind of like when Twitch does this to a person who's well established and has this whole backing behind them, compared to a little guy, that's why there should be more accountability on a company as Twitch. And we can tie this into like whole YouTube and the demonetization.
Right.
Where
it's also another stupid ass thing, by the way. But go on.
No, I mean this is perfectly where it's kind of just one company coming down on the little guy, even though it's the company's fault.
Right.
That's how I'm viewing. Like, obviously, it's two different instances. In Twitch, it's just like Twitch staff.
Demonetization, I will argue, is more of a. It's more of like covering one's ass after. Is it like when you get injured, you try to make amends to not get injured in the same way? So it's more of them at this point just trying to like cover their bases, but it's affecting people in a stupid way, as opposed to this Twitch situation where it's blatantly like, come on, son.
Right. Nah, yeah, again, YouTube is a different type of beats in that way, but I don't know. I just thought it was interesting, and obviously this is just two of things that hit home with League streamers with me. And I'm pretty sure there's probably other cases that I have not seen or researched out there.
I'm sure it's not an isolated situation. I'm sure it happens a lot, but different people have different voices.
Right.
It probably only came to light because of the impact that this partnered individual has on the community and the organization backing him. So it probably, if it was always smaller dudes, it probably would get consistently swept under the rug. But because it's hitting like somebody who is on a bigger scale and clearly is not at fault, it's definitely like more so of an issue that needs to be addressed. I mean, sure, it needs to be addressed if it happens to smaller people, but we won't know.
So I think this is an interesting segue to a different topic. What's your take on the N-word?
I'm black. And when I say black, I mean like in all sense of the words. I'm not American by heritage, but I do claim to be African American. And for me, the use of the word really for us is just as how it's always argued. It's like a hi. It's just hey,
right.
It's just something we say, because at this point it's kind of been embedded culturally to just have been translated
cultural
into
songs.
It's just at this point for me. I wouldn't say it's good or bad, but it's really at this point it's just been embedded in everything around me culturally. So it's just something I've adapted to. Whether or not I feel like it's okay for certain types of people to say it, it is perfectly fine if it's within your own environment, because people around you know exactly
your intentions and the context that you're using.
So if like the typical person on the outside won't know if you're being genuine or if you're being sincere to appeal to our cause or not, but your friends do. So at the end of the day, if your friend, if you have a circle that is perfectly and you've adapted to and is perfectly content with you saying certain things, by all means, say it within that realm. However, I would say that again, it seems weird because they're both stemming from the same thing. There is a definite difference between the hard R and the GA.
Obviously, no one should say the hard R. In any context, no one should.
Implies that you are racist. Even if you're not, just saying the hard R, even as a black person, I don't say it with the hard R. It just sounds
Even as a joke, the hard R will get you hands. Like
I don't even say the hard. You know what? You hear what I'm saying.
I understand.
I say hard R. I don't even say the word because that alone just it's cringy. Like
at no point, no one should say the hard R at all in today, modern day.
Not say the hard R, no matter how comfortable you are with people.
Quick funny story. One of my friends is like, sometimes the dude's smart as hell,
Right.
but like culturally and societally, he's very ignorant. Like he just goes, he does his thing. He's working. He doesn't really know like politics or society like that. So we were just talking about something like this, where in terms of N-word, and it's like, oh yeah, doesn't people like say, what up my hard R? And I looked at him and was like, you trying to get killed out here?
Don't want to say
No,
that.
and the thing is, I looked at it. I felt so offended. I was like, "Why did you say that?" And he was like, "No, that's what people say." I was like, "No, we say."
No one says that safely.
We say, and the GA. We say that one. And I was like, "Oh, but I was heard." Like, no. Wherever you heard that, you stop that now.
No, the GA. The thing is, with the GA, the GA has had its connotation stripped of the intensity of the meaning of the word that the hard R represents. There's a reason why in our community it's not really explained too well that we say the GA and have such comfort saying the GA, because the GA, just the use of the GA strips the intensity of the ER and makes it so that it's because we've been accustomed to being called that for however many years we've been enslaved. Like we feel the need to adapt it to have some kind of memory of where we're from in terms of being in this country. But the GA definitely strips the intensity of the connotation of the word that the ER like prevalently. Once you hear anyone who's accustomed to saying anything, even if you're not, once you hear the ER, there's a distinct difference with the GA. The GA sounds like it's almost commonplace. It's just like a conversation.
Right.
But once you say the ER, the intensity comes in because even if you don't mean it, it just immediately triggers like, why would you put so much emphasis on the end of the word? There's a reason why we don't want to hear that intensity. Now, the
thing is, would you agree that a lot of people put more importance of someone saying it, like, in terms of like if they hear a white person say it, like out of the blue, not directing at them, but like, they say it out of the blue to somebody else, that they kind of are in a way just angry like at that person?
Well, if someone uses the ER?
Yeah, well, no, the GA. If like a white person uses the GA.
In their own
circle. I'm saying, like, in passing by, if they get hurted, do you think that person kind of has a right to get mad, or?
Well, for a passerby, if
they
hear that a white person saying the I don't think it's fair, because a white person saying it with the EA, and again, you will know if it's something that they've been like embedded to say, because it sounds a lot different. So
I agree.
If you hear a white dude saying the GA, and they say it in a way that is reminiscent of the hood, it is unfair to judge them negatively, because they don't mean it that way, because they've been inside the black culture.
Right.
For all intents and purposes, they're just the whitest black person you know. So
that's
what them, it's comfortable for them to say it, because that's what they've been accustomed to, because of
they talk to people like that, and people have talked to him like that probably.
Right. So it's unfair to scrutinize them because of it, but I wouldn't say it's unfair to feel a certain way about it, because again, you don't know. Somebody might be saying it just to feel cool, so you don't know. but there are definite like mannerisms and ways that someone speaks that you can tell like, yeah, he's heard it a lot. Like he's embedded in it. He all his friends are black.
You got to feel it out. You got to make sure that you know the context of what the word is being used in.
It's like let's say he's arguing with his homie. It's like, yo, this nigga's stupid, bro. He's not saying.
Right, he's not saying.
He's just saying this dude. That's just how we say like this dude is stupid.
And I can attest to this in my own, like, you know, growing up when I went to college and whatnot. That whole like that shit.
That just.
No. I'm saying for myself, like me, like that was not in my vocabulary before college. And when I got into college, when I met you, and when I met this other dude, and then when I had more black friends than I ever had in my life, I was like, oh shit. You know that the Spider-Man meme where it's kind of like when you say the N-word and then you just see like your hand starting to turn black, or like
it's more like I think it comes from more admiration and acceptance. It's like if you know you're a part of a group of individuals that fuck with you and you fuck with them, like in some way, shape, or form, you're gonna adapt your mannerisms to match them in some way, shape, or form. You're always gonna have your innate like behaviors that you never change, but there's certain things, especially when you're trying to like adapt into this like set of people, you're gonna change certain mannerisms to adapt to the group, and that's generally where like that word just pops up in basic conversation for any race, really.
Right. Well, but I'm saying like for me is more like the only reason why I felt comfortable saying it was because it was just around me constantly. That like you and this other dude talking constantly saying it, and I'm like,
that's what I'm saying. And
then you just adopt the language. Like anywhere you go in the world, you adopt the language, you adopt the style, you adopt.
Right.
So even in your own group of friends,
if you want to blend in, it's not using blend in as a negative thing, but if you want to blend in, if you want to adapt to,
right, you just passively do it. Like it's not.
It just.
I feel like actively doing it might be awkward. It's like, coming in what up?
I mean, some people just want to feel included, but
of course everybody does.
Right. So, but it passively happening. It's gonna passively happen if you're around people long enough, and if you're around them long enough. Obviously, it says something about your admiration and your like respect for them. But if you're around people enough, and there's definitely a certain level of admiration, there's certain things that you're gonna just instinctively start saying just out of nowhere. It's like, where the fuck did this come? Because I'm fucking with this dude. It's just one of those things.
Right. So my N-word. What up?
My N-word. I don't know. I think like hearing people say N-word. It's like,
is that more awkward?
It's not more awkward than the ER.
Well, obviously, we're well established. ER just don't do it.
Don't. But it's just more. I feel like it's more like them trying to not offend, but trying to blend in. Like you're gonna blend in.
Yeah, you're right. That is awkward.
Don't half-ass the shit. Just like, you don't greet me like, yo, what's up, my N-word?
Like, yeah, that sounds more offensive, to be honest.
My nigga or my dude, like.
You could just do my dude, to be honest.
Don't half-ass it. Don't, go all in or don't do nothing at all. Otherwise, I'm gonna.
Either you get hands or you don't.
Yeah, because it's gonna feel awkward hearing these like. I mean, I got a name too. You can just say that if you have a problem.
You know what? I think that's a good thing. Just start off with names. Like if especially if you don't know the dude.
Yeah,
just do names. Just do names. Even if you think the guy's your friend, just do names.
I mean, there is gonna be a point in the conversations that you have where you realize, yeah, this dude is cool with me. But
now, do you think the word should be phased out in the next coming of years?
What N-word should it be? It's not something that's mandatory to say, honestly. I wouldn't say it's
not mandatory to say, but I'm saying like, do you think it's just beyond that? Like the only I feel like
so much of a cultural focal point for it to be like erased from communication. Granted, obviously it's not going to be, but it's not something that relevant for it to be erased out of conversation, but it's also not mandatory to use in conversation.
Right, but the reason why I say it is where it's like, as we could become more of a mixed society, more of a thing, where it's like certain people get mad for other races saying that thing, where it's kind of like for example, like the
Right, like if you're all gonna get offended, might as well just get rid of it, type of thing.
yeah, but also for some reason my mind keeps casting back. Have you ever heard? Was it Kendrick concert? I might be wrong. The Kendrick concert where it brought up a white woman up to the stage
to say the line with nigga in it, right?
Right, and he gets
annoyed.
I'm like,
but you know what the line was,
right?
Any other line you could have chose to say it, but you chose that particular line and then had a problem with her like rapping the lyrics. She probably does that in her own time. It's not like something
right. And obviously she's not doing it, with ill intention. She's just literally singing your song, my dude. So that's why I'm like, that was a setup.
We can talk about it then too, but I'm mentioning it now just briefly. Like as it relates to music, you can't, especially if you consider it art. And at the end of the day, art is meant to be shared and be embraced.
Right. No matter what.
Yeah. If you put out your art and you have a problem with it being reinterpreted or it being like accepted into the culture that you're trying to put it into, then you should revise your art to be more accepted in the way that you want it to be accepted. Like you can't put out art a certain way, but you want it to be interpreted a different. Like you put it out there to be interpreted how it's interpreted. So if you want it to be interpreted a certain way, you can manipulate it to be interpreted however you feel like it.
That's actually an interesting thing, probably for another podcast, where it jumps up like artist's intention versus the interpretation of the person who receives it. It was like if the person receives it in different way from the artist, does the artist have that kind of like, I guess, what you call ownership, where it's like, no, this is not how I wanted to interpret it, or like it's because it's art, you can interpret it any way you want.
It's art. If most musicians like to claim they're artists, I'm not a rapper, I'm a musician. A musician is an artist. If you want to be seen for what you portray to other people, then the type of product you put out is gonna be seen just so as well. So you can't put out a piece of art and not expect it to be shared and broadcasted the way that you put it out. Because if someone is gonna words are very direct. Their intentions, their meanings are direct. So if you put out something with a direct meaning, you can't expect somebody to deviate from what you initially say. You can, in the same light, you can direct your words to a different focus and people will adapt to that focus. You don't have to say certain things and then feel offended if you can avoid saying it, and then you won't ever have to hear it. Someone is not going to put nigga in a song that nigga is not in.
Right.
And the artist or the person that,
it's like, damn, I don't remember
that.
You
are the one that puts it in. Yeah, you are the one that puts it in there. So if you put it in there, not expected to be vocalized or said because of what the culture should accept as mainstay, you're definitely in the wrong for that. You have the power to put out the art that you put out and manipulate it the way that you manipulate it. So you have the ultimate power to affect how it's said.
Right.
So if you don't want it to be said, if you don't want even a thought of it being said offensively to you, then say it in a way that is never going to be offensive to you. That way, if anyone says it's like, yeah, cool.
Do you think that's stifling the artist then? Where it's kind of like, now we got
at the end of the day, again, you choose that. So I mentioned earlier that the word is not mandatory. You don't have to say it.
Right.
Song doesn't lose its power because nigga is not said. So unless it's a song about Black empowerment, in which case certain things have to be said because that's the meaning behind it. But if it's a regular song, nigga doesn't have to be said for it to be interpreted like, oh yeah, like this song is way more powerful now because this dude said nigga 500. It's not mandatory. So at the end of the day, if you don't want it said, don't say it.
It's like, damn, my boy's gone soft. He only said it 36 times this time, not 30.
No one cares. At the end of the day, it's like, again, it's another word. So if it's never said, people won't really pay attention to the fact that it's not said until you mention it. Like, yo, you know, I didn't say nigga not once in that. Oh shit, you right. That shit fire though. Like no one cares. So if you don't want it said, if you feel like you're being stifled, that's on you. You are in the society, you understand certain things, and you know how what you say is relayed to other people, and especially in a position of power, you know that people who admire you are going to want to replicate whatever it is that you do, especially when it comes to the type of music or the type of art that you create. So if you don't want it to be replicated in any way, shape, or form, you don't want it rehearsed or said, if it's gonna offend you, then don't say it. You have the ultimate power to affect that.
Agree.
If you don't say it, you will never hear it.
Agree. Did you have a topic that you wanted to discuss?
I mean, we can talk about topics for another day, but for now, this is a good. I mean,
we'll rock on it.
Like this is one of the more like. I mean, any topic about like how people view nigga is always like interesting.
I mean, yeah, that's why I thought it's a nice topic. The segue was there, so we gotta go.
It's one of those things that being neutral kind of benefits me in, because some people like they hear certain things immediately, you start getting triggered. Like, nah, I don't want to hear it. Like, no, Black Power, all that. Like, nah, I'm all about rationality. If you're doing irrational things, then it is going to be addressed in such a way. So again, note to anybody who makes music: if you feel so much woke that you don't want to hear certain things because you feel like you're in an age where certain things should already be like. There should be implications already embedded to where you don't have to hear certain things. Don't say it. If you feel like you don't want to hear it, then you have the power to not say it. You can say it in regular conversation. No one cares. But if you want to put out a body of work, art, music, whatever it is that you choose to put out, if you have a statement behind it, expect that people who admire you, who are your fans, people who love your music, people who are supporting your lifestyle, people who are supporting your career, if they can't say the things that you say in your own song, that is a problem that you have to rectify.
Yeah,
that's with society. It's you.
That's another thing where it's kind of like you were touching bases on before, and I somehow didn't pick it up. Where it's kind of like you're benefiting all this from being.
These people are not going to your show for free.
Right, you're benefiting all this, so like if you care so much, then you would do something about it. But again, my casting back. It was Kendrick, right? That was a Kendrick concert.
But I'm pretty sure there are like rappers or musicians feel like that word shouldn't be said.
Right, but like everybody, even in the crowd, was mad at her. I'm like, why are you getting mad at her if she's just singing the lyric?
Because he hyped it. If he hyped it to be okay, they wouldn't have cared. He initially hyped it to be negative. That's why, because they're his fans. So if he feel offended, they're going to feel offended for him. So if he doesn't feel offended, then they're not going to feel offended, because at the end of the day, he's going to be able to accept accountability. Like, nah, I brought her up here. I know exactly what's going to happen. Don't worry about it. That's my fault.
That's why I'm like, that was a setup from the get-go, man.
I think essentially at that point, that was just a method of him trying to avoid accountability. And it just so happened that because he's in a room full of people who admire his music, like his side is going to be taken automatically.
Probably.
So it's just...
another segue, I guess, since we're all on this whole cultural thing, where it's kind of like, what do you think about people adopting the kind of like Black culture or Black,
as people say, appropriating Black culture and then being admired for it uniquely? This is the thing. When it comes to that, an interesting thing to point out. When you see a group of Black girls, you kind of, it's just using a stereotypical sense, because I've yet to, it's very difficult not to. When you see like a group of Black girls, right, it's not so hard to pick out a nice booty, because 9 times out of 10, probably they all do, right? However, if you see it on an Asian chick, in a group of Asian chicks, it's more noticeable. It's just one of those things where I'm sure people are not doing it because they want to be accepted more for it. Like, oh yeah, I'm doing it, and this Black girl did it, but she didn't do it better. It's not one of those things. I don't think they're trying to do it better. They just admire us enough to want to replicate the things that we do because they find it attractive, and people just see it as an anomaly, so it's more appealing. It's like, again, seeing a whole group of black girls with weave, that's common, right? Seeing like any random person who you're not expected to see that on is gonna seem more interesting because of the fact that it's not common.
Mm.
So I don't think, again, I don't think it's really that they're trying to like take our culture from us. They admire us, so they're trying to replicate the things that we do. It's just more noticeable because we're not accustomed to seeing it on them. Giving it a couple years when everybody's doing the same shit that we started, then it won't even seem like anything interesting anymore. It'll just be regular. But I think the thing is, behind people who get offended about it is that they want it to be like unique to us. Like, no, this is a black thing. I don't want anybody else to do it. Like, this is just no. It's, if you put it out there, it's going to be adopted and accepted by whoever wants to accept it, and it's going to be replicated. It's one of those things that you have to accept. That's how society reacts. If I find something appealing and I can do it myself, I'm going to do it, even if it's not unique to my culture. It's just one of those things.
So one of the examples I would bring up, I forget, but this was like a big thing way back then, where there was like this white woman with dreads, and this black woman like was like telling her like, that's not okay, you can't be doing that.
It's fine. She wants to. Again, she likes it because she admires what it looks like on our culture. So she just wants, she's not trying to say, oh, no, I'm white, I'm doing it better. Because when it comes to locks, you're not. But it's just a matter of her wanting to embrace something that she finds appealing.
Do you think at the end of the day, like, a hairstyle is just a hairstyle, no matter...
A hairstyle is just a hairstyle, bro.
Like, no matter where it comes from?
It's just a hairstyle. If you put it out there, it's art. That is also art. If you put it out there, it's going to be interpreted however it is that
I just reminded myself that another thing that was, like, a whole big thing, again, not recent, but, like, way back then, that there was, like, these group of white teens with a kimono for prom, and they were doing this. But, like, this is kind of like a meme thing, where they were like squatting and doing this. Like, I've seen this plenty of times.
Oh,
but, like,
right.
They were blasted by some Asian community, by some of the Asian communities, saying like that's appropriating culture. Meanwhile, people straight up from who made these kimonos were like, nah, man, it's they just like our culture. Whereas
that's exactly. I think the thing is we're becoming too sensitive as a culture. I feel like the more we progress in years, is the more accepting we should be of certain concepts, like becoming more rationally, like logical thinking about certain things. But it seems like the more technological advancements we make is the more stupid we become as individuals, become more sensitive to things for whatever reason, because everybody wants to be woke. At the end of the day, you have to realize something at face value. If they want to do certain things, they're not trying to appropriate Black culture and take our culture from us. They just like what they see. If anything, they're heightening the value of our culture because they admire the shit that we're doing and they want to replicate it.
I guess
a lot of people have been tanning. Why do you think they want to tan? To be darker. For what? Because they find darker skin appealing. Guess who had dark skin?
Well, I think people on the other side would be like, well, yeah, but the thing is, they always like, they don't credit the culture. Like, they always try to.
You can't credit Black people for adapting to sunlight. You know what I mean? Like, congratulations, you adapted to sunlight.
Right, but I'm saying, like, whereas and this goes to like a deeper conversation that we can have for another day. Like I've seen people who kind of like are all Black culture, no other culture, or like no, like, fuck everybody else, where it's kind of like they're like women out there or men out there, if you date out of your race, then you're against your own race, or type of thing. And the thing is, that's in any race. There are those type of people, whereas like they see dating outside your race as like against your people. I'm
all for it. Listen, if you have that belief, especially if you're one of those super woke people and you think that everyone came from Black people, then you should have the least problems interacting with other cultures if you feel that way. Honestly speaking, because if you feel like we all came from Black, then we all Black in your eyes. That should be how it is. So if you white, you Black. you Asian, you black. If you feel that way, then everyone should be accepted. There should not be any specific focus on dark skin. But I think that it's just one of those things that leads into the whole super sensitivity that people want to feel like they're more culturally aware than the next person. So they try to do things that seem like from the outside looking in, from the typical ignoramus, that like this is the way that we should be. Like, yeah, we should be more accepting of our own culture. We should want to be, but if our culture wasn't trying to be like other cultures, it wouldn't have been a problem. If these same black people who are try to be like as natural as they can be in their black skin had a problem, then I'd feel at least I'd be more like aware of their plight, like alert to their plight or sympathetic to their plight. But you can't tell me this shit and you wearing a weave.
God damn it.
No, because you're at that point you're trying to replicate a hairstyle that is not unique to you.
That's actually really true. Yeah, that's
so,
actually.
So how can you trying to blast somebody else for trying to appropriate any culture or trying to date any, because you're not even trying to be naturally you. So, and then again, this is just appealing to those who have weaves. For those like natural sisters who have a problem, stop being so sensitive. I can say that about you. But really, at the end of the day, it's really about just knowing what to be sensitive about. Like, people want to be sensitive about so much shit nowadays that they just want to be sensitive about something. You have to be passionate about something. Like, people just want to be passionate about something. They're just being passionate about all the wrong things.
Nah, I do want to like throw in there, like we were talking about black culture a lot. You know, obviously, it's not that there's a problem or anything. It's like other cultures also have specific or maybe even the same problems. Hell, we can do a whole podcast on white problems.
Right.
Like, trust me, I'm pretty sure we can find a good number of articles.
No, there's problems in every culture for sure. I'm just referring to black as it relates to my own culture. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's just what I was pointing. That's why I was pointing it out, because at the end of the day, like, who better to speak on, you know, how black people feel.
Well, obviously, I was about to bring some other guy up here. It's like, yeah, I'm Puerto Rican, but I'm pretty sure I'm black.
or a white Yale scholar. Like, yes, I know all about black.
So the problem with the black culture.
Right. You don't get your blue fan.
Like, here's the thing. That's how politicians do. Like, who else is talking about these issues in the highest courts of land? A bunch of white dudes.
You're right.
Who is on, like, these people who are tackling homelessness and, you know, poverty? The white dudes who probably never been homeless or
which is why the problem still persists, because they don't know how to properly handle it.
Right. They can't fathom, like, oh, I'm trying to fix a situation that I know nothing about, basically.
But the thing that's sad about that is that there's always going to be idiots who are always in support of these people, and they're coming from poverty. Like, how do you come from poverty and feel like somebody who has always been wealthy has your best interest at heart, as opposed to someone who actually, like,
there's
from nothing?
There's a quote for that. I forgot who said it, and I'm gonna butcher the quote, but it said, if to keep yourself wealthy, you have to keep the poor dumb, something like that.
Yeah.
Or you have to convince the poor that you are fighting for them, like the wealthy is fighting for you, something like that. I'm very bad at memorizing. Yeah. I'm bad at memorizing quotes and shit and who they're from. Sorry if I don't credit that.
But you were credited.
But somewhere out there, the generalization.
In the grand scheme of things. But nah, this is definitely an interesting topic. Like, it's always again, it's always cool to talk about, you know, stuff related to cultures, especially as it relates to my culture, because there's so many things that, like, we try to fight for that just is irrelevant completely. Like, if we focus all this energy on trying to unify our cultures as opposed to trying to create more separation, we'd be way more progressive as a society. Everybody wants to play the victim, like, oh yeah, because I was victimized, like, I'm gonna put myself in the power position, instead of trying to, like, unite with the people that you're gonna have to coexist with anyway. It's like trying to create a common ground with the people that you're around to create progress. Like, trying to be woke and trying to be so focused on your own culture is only going to create more separation. Blend, learn about different cultures, accept different ways of life. Like, adapt to them, if you will. Like
I will argue
inspire them,
that
replicate them, if you will. That only shows.
I will argue that it is hard to do that when the other cultures don't. You know, one thing is like we always abide by different rules, but when it comes to other people's culture, they don't abide by that same rule. So why should we?
I'm not preaching the same.
I know you're not, but I'm saying like
as a whole. This is an as a whole thing.
Everyone should, but that's why I'm saying like maybe some people choose that, whereas like fuck all that culture, I'm about my culture only, because they're like no other culture is going to be willing to do that, so why should we?
But there are people in those cultures that are.
True, but you know,
you can't assume that whole culture don't fuck with you just because you feel like the whole culture.
You know, it's not about the message, it's just about the bigger voice. Where it's like if someone who has the biggest voice is voicing this kind of like we the X people believe, you know, obviously no one person or no one small group represents a whole race of people. Right. Get that out there. But it's kind of like if someone has like a bigger voice in the community, then it's kind of like they assume the platform of one of the leadership of the X community.
Right. Yeah. My thing is just, you know, just stop being sensitive about shit, man. If people are not openly being offensive, stop feeling like there's something to nitpick at. There's certain things you just accept at face value because they really are only like presented at face value. There's not always a hidden connotation behind everything. Everybody tries to be so super woke. You don't need to.
Or that's what they want you to think.
Right? Oh, God forbid.
That's what they want you to think.
Damn.
I'm just fucking around.
I'm sure.
Well, this has been a lovely conversation. We should do this again, maybe Thursday.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'll be here.
So now, I guess just to wrap this up, let's just try to do goals for ourselves.
Okay.
Like, where do we want to take this?
What do you mean take what?
This thing that we want to create. Like, right. what is like mid-tier goals that we're trying to do, like in like 2 months or something, 3 months? Like, for me, I want to have.
I just want to be consistent.
No, consistency is a goal. You're right. And we want to shoot for two times a week.
At minimum.
Right. I want like actual feedback, audience feedback. So that's why I'm gonna try to be working on extending out there and asking questions and try to like market ourselves. Obviously, you got your people on your contacts that you're like, yo, talk about this. Like, we want to have conversations with people. We want to actually elaborate on certain things, and we want to get suggestions on the
goal too. I would like to have more guests.
You want guests? Oh, we can get guests. Hell, we need female opinions. That's what we need.
on any, yeah. I was about to say on topics like heavily focused on. Don't get it twisted. Any topic is fine, but it doesn't.
We're talking about man stuff. It's
on something like woman specific. You know what I mean?
Well, we know a couple of women that would love to get in on that. I have one. Well, actually, we have two.
Love to, or like we immediately jump in it.
Would immediately come in, yes. Actually, I had 3. So I got 3 females guests on deck already. So whenever we want to talk about that. Now the thing is, we gotta figure out the issues that. Oh well, actually no, we just bring them on.
Pretty much.
What other guests should we get? The party. We can go.
Eventually, yeah, we can. It would be so nice to get like somebody with a voice.
Well,
I'm not saying we don't have a voice. I mean, someone actually established in a community somewhere that has, some kind of like greater influence over.
I mean, we gotta establish ourselves as like, hey, we're here for a conversation. We're here just to talk, and we talk about anything really. And I forgot to do our thing in the beginning. This is the Real One show. We're real dudes. We're real opinions.
Talk about real shit.
We're talking about real shit. All right. Like, yeah, we love gaming, anime, and all that geeky shit, but we like talking about real shit sometimes, all right? So we switch it up every time. You know, I started with kind of like gaming, Twitch related news, but it's still converted into a real conversation about it. And that's kind of like the theme I want the thesis of the show to be, where it's kind of like we start kind of internety news or whatnot, but like it's a bigger conversation.
And also, yay for the fact that this is our first time like on like a viewable platform. And we tried to do the whole like in the same room thing before, and we didn't really have space to accommodate that.
A space, and you live in Queens, I live in Brooklyn, and it's not even like, oh,
it's more of a space thing. Because I think just to test it out, we probably like be able to do it once. We tried it and it didn't really work out. But eventually, we'll probably try to work out like some space issues with like some space situation where we can have like a space for ourselves where we can just like talk about stuff and be able to facilitate gets a lot easier because we'll have like, you know, a bigger space and just the space just for being able to talk, you know, that we can have like a whole setup and things like that. That'd be pretty dope. That'd be a cool goal, actually. So just have like a dedicated space.
So watch out for watch out for our Patreon. Nah, not yet.
I mean, hey, fuck it.
Not yet. We need audience, man. We can't get a Patreon. But he was like, "Yo, one dude that followed us donate."
That might be the one dude that makes it happen, though. You never know.
That's basically playing lottery, but
a lot of dudes play lottery. Look at musicians.
Yeah, I know.
There's so many people making music. How do you know that people who are in these positions ain't get lucky, man? Luck is a big factor when it comes to success. People like to think that it's just hard work. Like your hard work won't mean anything if it's not recognized by someone. And for it to be recognized, that's a good deal of luck involved. Networking makes it easier, but there's still a great deal of luck involved.
Right, but now no more luck. We just do. We create.
Luck is not something that you can script. So
right.
Just something to point out. With work is still gonna be, like I said, I want to be more consistent to boost the RNG.
Boost the RNG. Nice.
Definitely want to boost the RNG. However, like definitely biggest focus for me is, you know, consistency. I think consistency solves a lot of issues. Because at least when we're able to create something consistently, we can generate ideas to make it better over time, but it will always be based in that consistency. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So if you say, okay, let's try this one day, you know, let's try this one day. At least what we're saying is, let's try this on the day that we already plan to do something. You know what I mean? So It leads to experimentation, it leads to progress, it leads to better quality, like production. But at the end of the day, I talked about this to Bobby when we decided to get back in the vibe of this, is that consistency is key. And we're obviously not perfect. We obviously have like particularly like conflicting lives. I wouldn't say they're the busiest. They're pretty busy, but they're conflicting more than anything. So we'll definitely like try to make it work more consistently. We're now trying to actively like formulate. I think our schedules are a little more accommodating now because we both at least in one point of the day work at the same time and leave at the same time, so we have a fairly like consistent like sleep schedule when it comes to being able to wake up and communicate with each other. So it's a little more convenient now in that respect as it was before. So knowing that, we'll definitely try to work around that and make, you know, as much videos as possible and, you know, increase the quality as time goes on as well, but create as much videos as possible. And
all about content. Just the content and doing
styles of doing it, you know. Again, this is our first, like, you know, face to face. I don't know how it looks on Bobby's end. I'm sure it's briskly because, you know, man, been working with a beast over there. Pause. But at least, you know, we're making, you know, ideas happen. So right. I think from now, like outside of the whole goal spectrum, like being able to like start something now, like, you know, make some plans now is definitely like progressive. And I have spieled for way too long. So on that note,
take us out.
Video, be sure to subscribe. If you like the content, definitely have to put that in there. If you like the content, it's pretty self-explanatory. You should even mention the notification bell because I think it's something I'm gonna mention when we get a lot more consistent.
Of course.
But
But if you want to,
when we're putting out a new video, definitely hit that notification bell. You'll be immediately notified of when we put out something, or as immediately as YouTube is not screwy that day. Anything else? Comment on what you like.
Please comment. We want user
about the type
opinions, suggestions.
Anything you want to talk about is keep it respectful and keep it logical, and you'll be alright.
Also, if you disagree with any of our points, please say that.
But just be logical and be respectful, especially to people in the comments. I'll come across too much comment sections that are just like haywire. Let's try to keep
fires.
Yeah, let's try to keep our comment section full of logical thinking, because I feel like if you're watching this, you're not an idiot anyway. So let's keep that same energy. Let's keep the logical, like introspective energy in the comments, and we'll build a beautiful community out of this, man. But on that note, I'm your boy Mo.
I'm your boy Bobby.
And the real ones. Wait, that's not what we do. Is
that yeah, real ones are out.
Oh, the real ones are out.
It's been a minute.
Back to